Hey everyone, my name is Ben Gurmik. I'm from InterNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, world's largest organization of residential and commercial property inspectors. We essentially train and certify home and building inspectors all over the world. And today is an InterNACHI webinar. You may be attending the live webinar. All of our webinars are live, free, online, open to everyone. Or you may be watching a video recording because we record every webinar so that you can watch it on YouTube or listen to it on our podcast. So if you're attending, thanks for being here. This is a special webinar because my buddy Dillon Winiecki from Protect Property Inspections is going to talk to you about commercial property inspections, and InterNACHI can help. And we also have a sister organization, ccpia.org. That's ccpia.org. If you're interested in becoming a commercial property inspector. So we have an online sister organization as well. So that's InterNACHI at nachi.org and ccpia.org if you want to be a commercial property inspector. Dillon, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Ben.
I know you're a busy fella and you have a team of inspectors. So let me ask you a couple of questions about your business. How's business?
It's going great. No complaints. We've been growing, growing pains here and there as we've been kind of breaking into some new markets and starting some new ancillary services and that kind of thing. But that's just business. We're happy to do it, and we're happy to have the help of InterNACHI and the CCPIA. So,
how long have you been in business?
September was my 3-year mark, so not long. I figure we're a baby company, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I've checked out your website. I like to spy on home inspectors' websites, and you got a great website. And there's a logo on your website. It's a turtle with a cross on its back. What is up with the logo design?
I'm actually a professional firefighter too, and I don't know if you know this, but firefighters don't have the longest life expectancy, so turtles do. And so I created this home inspection company thinking that maybe I could live a little bit longer in life. I still am a firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm also a believer, and so I put the cross on the back just to remind us of why we're doing this and that kind of thing. So.
Awesome. God bless. Hey, tell us how being a firefighter helps you with your business.
Absolutely. So a couple ways. I mean, one, just the organization I'm a part of with the Phoenix Fire Department, there's over 1,600 members. So right there, you're kind of reaching, and the word of mouth likes to grow. And firefighters like to gossip, I guess. So you better do a good job or they're not going to use you anymore. So no, we've actually got a lot of referrals from them. And actually a lot of them are also realtors or tradesmen. And so you can kind of create this big marketing atmosphere and referral partners in the fire department, which has been really nice. A lot of us have second jobs and that kind of thing. So that's also helped. And then just, the general trust of the public. I think, like firefighters are usually pretty trustworthy people, at least we should be, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's just, I think that does help a little bit. We don't do a whole lot of marketing with it, but the people that do know we are firefighters, they appreciate that. Not all of my inspectors are firefighters. I do have a couple that are part-time that work with me, but we actually have 8 inspectors right now. So yeah.
Wow. 8.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've grown a little bit since we signed up for this webinar, actually.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So how do you think, what do you contribute your success to?
Honestly, the big man, if I really had to contribute it to something, but I'm just so blessed. When I started this, I wanted maybe 4 to 5 inspections a month, just to something to offset the expenses and make a little money kind of thing. And I figured out I really enjoyed it. And then I got to where I was doing 2 or 3 a day, and then that became actually very stressful. I'm sure people who do that in the inspection industry, they realize how hard that can be on you. It can be hard on your family, especially when I was using a different reporting software that wasn't quite as user-friendly than what we use now. And so it just, we've dialed some things in and we've got more efficient. And then I started to do some hiring and realized I was being blessed in that area where there was just good people coming my way. And I contribute my success to a great team, really. I mean, I've just some great inspectors who have great ideas, great motivation, self-motivated to go out there and do a good job, great reviews that come in, and then just the word of mouth has just built from there. So it's been nice.
That's great. So why don't you click the share button, and
Yeah.
you're going to share an inspection report. You use software. You mentioned software. You use Spectora software as well, but you have a few other things you want to share with us as well before we
Yeah,
get.
absolutely. I mean, so first of all, I'll talk a little bit about my commercial company that we build. It's basically a DBA off of my Protect Property Inspections that you see the turtle logo. So we have a little bit different logo up here, as you can see. Arizona Commercial Property Inspections, and InterNACHI designed that logo as well. We appreciate that design team. They do a great job.
Right.
But what we found though is that there's actually, I don't believe enough commercial property inspectors in the Phoenix area. This is the fifth largest city in the nation, you know, and metropolitan area probably even bigger. So there's a ton of opportunity for commercial inspections, and we felt like maybe it'd be a good idea to break into that market. Again, some of my inspectors had experience already, whether it be trade experience or inspecting from a previous company doing a lot of commercial. So I felt like I had people around me that knew what they were doing, and then with the help of CCPIA and some of the training that they provide, as well as just the standards and that kind of thing to reduce liability, that we actually had a national standard that we could inspect by and include that in our agreement and everything like that, to where the liability wouldn't be too harsh, and we can actually get into this and do a good job.
Yeah.
So we've created a commercial template for our software. We use Spectora for those of you who are, you know, familiar with that. Very easy to make different templates and that kind of thing. So we created a commercial template and a commercial DBA, and started its own Google, its own Facebook, that kind of thing. And then we have the listing here on CCPIA. And when you click on our link, this is actually what comes up and talks about Arizona commercial property inspection. So different services we offer, different buildings and types of buildings that we can inspect and feel comfortable inspecting, and then our service area. So for a commercial inspection, for those of you who don't know, you can charge quite a bit of money depending on the building and the complexity. So we're willing to travel basically anywhere in Arizona to do that.
And in home inspections, you're charging hundreds. In commercial property inspections, you're in thousands.
Absolutely, yeah. This building that I'm going to show you here, I don't mind telling you, it was a more than $10,000 inspection.
Wow.
So
Good job.
yeah, impressive to me. And I did a lot of research on how to actually price that appropriately. You know, I'm not in this business to, you know, take anything from anybody. I want to do a good job and do a fair, provide a fair price. And I feel like we did do that. This was a very complex inspection. So I can kind of show you guys what this looks like. This was the building here. It was actually a private technical university, digital media university. The building itself, interestingly enough, was actually designed to be a spa, a large spa. So it had a ton of different units that, you know, people could, the idea was, I guess they could sublet it and have their own nail salon or, you know, hair salon. And so there was multiple different units with their own thermostats and their own sinks and that kind of thing. So there had been quite a few remodels done since it was built. And it was built in '04, and ton of remodeling, but it did still have 35 air conditioners. So that was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So me personally, I have a few things where my company just, we have to draw the line and say, hey, we're going to subcontract that service out. That's just going to be way too much for us. So in this case, air conditioning did get, HVAC did get subcontracted out to a licensed professional. We have, just like CCPI recommends, we have a small contract with them where basically they agree to not do work on the property within 1 year post inspection, so that they're not doing this inspection, you know, with the thought of trying to get anything out of it. They're just providing a good general inspection, unbiased.
Yep.
That's a recommendation from the CCPIA. So we've taken that seriously. This client specifically knew of a few roof issues already, so they went ahead and hired their own roofer, which is totally fine with me as well. I know Ben's familiar with roofing. There's a lot to it, especially in the commercial industry. So we were comfortable with having a roofer out for that. This roof here had, I don't know if you can see here, but there's tile roof, and that's going to be a concrete tile. Very common in Arizona. My home inspectors are very familiar with concrete tile. And then there was also a flat foam roof where all the air conditioners and that kind of thing were held. So
Yep.
you know, we would have been comfortable talking about it and commenting on it, we're inspecting it, but I think they got a better deal having a roofer go out, and they also got a quote, a couple different quotes from a couple different companies. So good thing is I was able to be there when the roofer was there, so I was able to ask him questions, follow him around, kind of, and I helped provide access and that kind of thing too. So it made it pretty smooth process.
Yeah, that's the strange thing, or kind of a strange thing with commercial property inspections. You can essentially be a manager of other resources. And at home inspections, usually the home inspector is doing the whole thing. You really don't sub out the kitchen to another inspection company or anything like that. But a commercial property inspection, you got to know how much you can do, what's your capabilities, and maybe there's another resource that knows something more than you, and you need to be able to make that decision.
Absolutely, and more training on that from CCPI that was very helpful, as well as the standard operating procedures, the COMSOB. They teach you a lot about that, and you know, I probably wouldn't have even tried to get into commercial inspections if I didn't hear and kind of understand and train and know that that's really a possibility, and the way that you can and should do it depending on the complexity of the building.
Yep. And when you have all that knowledge, then you can like be an equal to like another professional. So when you bump up against a commercial property roofing company, you can be on the same terms, you know, the same terminology and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, so on this one in particular, you can see we subbed out the HVAC, and these are all report attachments that were added to our report, and they're all accessible right here in a nice little link and everything to the client. So it makes it kind of nice. So we subbed out the HVAC, the termite, fire suppression and extinguishers, and also the fire sprinkler system. This was their annual test, and then they actually did an inspection and test as well. So you can see that's pretty comprehensive there. They had 3 different reports for that.
Yep.
And then we had a sewer scope that actually is done by my company, but I have another, again, I have a little DBA for that through my home inspection company, so that again, we can offer that to other home inspection companies who may not be comfortable offering that service. We did do the training. There's a training that InterNACHI provides online, and we did do that. And our inspectors, you know, bought their own cameras, and they, you know, they go ahead and provide that service. So we have that there, and then the agreement is also attached. I think it's important to talk about the agreement with commercial because, again, it is a little bit different. We're subcontracting a lot of these things, so there's not all this automation like there is for a home inspection, where you know they just order it online and it gets scheduled online, and then your home inspectors show up, you know, and everything's good. There's, you know, this one in particular took about 50 emails back and forth between the client and the agent and the broker, and you know, there's a lot of coordination involved. And again, this is why you're charging more money for this. There's a lot of coordination, a lot of liability, and a very complex property. So one of the things I like to do is when somebody calls my office and asks for a commercial inspection, the first thing I start doing is just research on the property. You know, what am I even getting myself into here? Is this something we can handle? Is this something I feel comfortable with? I start making phone calls to my subcontractors that I've made relationships with, and hey, can you get in a certain amount of time? What are you going to charge? That kind of thing. And then what I do is I put together a proposal. And the proposal, I've actually created a template, and it includes a lot of language from CCPIA and what we inspect, what we don't, and talks about kind of what we're willing to inspect. And then it breaks down each charge for each subcontractor and our inspection. And then honestly, the client kind of can customize that and write us back and say, yes, I want termite. Yes, I want HVAC. No, I don't want roof. And that's what happened in this inspection. They didn't want the roof through us. So we handled everything else. And then they kind of also talked about their expectations. They didn't really care about cosmetics on the interior because the actual tenant of the building was going to be paying and I guess responsible for maintaining those areas. So that's another good part of the CCPIA training, is it talks about how to find out, you know, who's maintaining what, and kind of some of the pre-letters that you can send out to different clients, whether it be the client, the building owner itself. We even like to talk to building maintenance and get some ideas from them on what's been going on.
Yeah.
There's a ton of research to be done before this inspection even starts.
Huh.
Yeah. So the agreement, like I said, is kind of customized. Once we figure out that proposal is agreed on, we figure out the price and what services they want, the client wants. We'll then create an agreement and we send it through our Spectora software, just like anybody would on a home inspection. The client will sign it and then pay. One thing I have found with commercial inspections, sometimes the clients want to pay a little bit differently, upwards of $10,000, they might pay, chunks at a time, or say, are you comfortable with us paying, half now and half at the end or whatever.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we're willing to work with people on that. We realize it's a large expense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, without further ado, I'll kind of go through the inspection report. You'll see, for those of you that are familiar with Spectora, it's very similar to a home inspection report. The difference is our template makes sure that we cross every dot, cross every T and dot every I when it comes to the CCPIA, because we want to make sure we're inspecting within our standards.
Yep. And if you're live attending the webinar right now with Dillon and I, you can feel free to ask questions. Just click the Q&A button. There's a Q&A button somewhere on your side. Not really the chat. The Q&A button is better for questions and answers. So Dillon's willing to take some questions if you have any that pop up. Go for it, Dillon.
Absolutely. So first, I'll just show you kind of what this building looked like. It's kind of nice. We were able to go on their website and find out. We found these floor plans here, and it talked about what different rooms were. So we kind of started to get an idea how many bathrooms there were, what kind of rooms there were going to be presenting themselves when we actually got on the property. So we have a couple different layouts. It was a 3-story building. And then as far as the property inspection report, I mean, this looks very similar to what a lot of you might understand. So we have blue items, which are going to be more of a maintenance item. We have a repair needed, which is going to be a very common item, but we do recommend repairs to prevent further issues. And then we have significant repair or safety hazard. Very, very common way of doing things in the home inspection industry. So we've kind of taken that from our partners. And a little bit of an overview, comment key and definition. I'm sure most reports you guys see have that. Inspection details, just talk about some of the information that we saw on the day of. Again, this is all stuff that's just good to include, and a little bit of CYA as well. Talking about how it's occupied. I mean, there was some rooms where you could hardly get into because there was so much going on. Again, with it being a digital media school, there was like prop rooms where there was just a ton of props and clothing and all kinds of stuff. So definitely need to, make sure that, we cover our butts in those areas, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Insulation and ventilation was one of the first things here. You can see here just a few insulation bats had fallen down. Between the floors, there was crawl spaces and then a small attic space as well, because all the HVAC equipment was split system. So they had condensers out on the roof, and then they had air handlers in the crawl spaces, if you guys are familiar with those. Mm-hmm. That's probably our most common form of air conditioner here in Arizona. AC is very important here. It gets upwards to 120 and it's pretty uncomfortable. So like I said, there was 35 of them on this building. So not a whole lot of defects in this area though. But again, this is all pretty basic stuff, and what the client wanted was a pretty basic inspection. So also I'll orient you to these tabs here. So we have, this is now going to be the exterior. We have the overview that has our check boxes, and if we had any recommendations. We have informational tabs. Some of those are just going to provide, little pictures with what we provide with, recommend with grading and drainage, just some educational stuff. And then also our types and condition, or our types, conditions, and systems and materials and that kind of thing you'll see here. And then we also have limitations built into everyone as well. So there's going to be also the defects here, and these are where they're color coordinated, and that's what the dots above that I had explained. You can kind of see these are color coordinated comments here. So again, blue, just some minor maintenance stuff, vegetation abutting, I think we all call that around the country because of, termite intrusion, also mechanical damage, that kind of thing. And, good to keep those away from the building. In Arizona too, we have roof rats that like to climb trees and get into your stuff, so that's no good.
Oh, wait a minute. You have to explain to everybody else, what's a roof rat?
So we have large rats, these pests that will climb up these trees and they'll get into the roof system. They'll find little ways to get into the attic space and start nests, and it just is a pain. So yeah, definitely want to avoid that. So we make vegetation a pretty big deal here. So as far as grading and we had some drainage issues here. We call this out undergrading and drainage, but these are actually roof drains coming from the flat roof portion. So there's going to be a primary drain and a secondary drain. Primary ran underneath the ground here and terminated, actually, I think you can see the picture here, terminated out into this ground drain, surface drain. So it went underneath, but it actually collapsed here. The secondary drain would come out of this scupper here. And you can see we also had some issues with the scupper heads. They were missing. So the little spout tongue, if you will. So allowing possibly some moisture to get down between the cladding. We have stucco cladding here, and we'll talk more about that on the exterior because we did have quite a few, stucco issues here. I take a picture with my tool here just to show the size kind of thing. I mean, somebody could really freak out about that hole if they didn't know the size of it. So I think it's good just to orient people. Looks like maybe we had a guardrail on this window at some time and it got torn off. So they had some damage around the window here. So yeah, some small stucco defects, pretty common here in our area. These, any type of, usually any type of stucco kind of decorative feature like this is going to be made out of foam. At least in our area it is, and then they wrap the chicken wire around the foam and then they stucco around that. So those do become delaminated and kind of loosen up over time, especially as the building moves. We do have fairly expansive soils here in the Phoenix area. And when it gets wet, expansive soil takes place, and then you can kind of see what happens. Stuff moves around, and then over time, 20 years later, you get some movement and you get some cracking. Looks like they may have added a door back here on the back of the property, and you can see it looks like they did add a lintel possibly. You can see that it's maybe cracking around where that was. We kind of brought it to their attention, but didn't see any issues with it. There was some issues with this door, but we call that out in a different area. You can see some evidence of water intrusion. So the top of this small decorative balcony is actually stucco. People don't know stucco is actually a very porous material. So water will go right through it, and then it kind of starts to weep through here. Yeah. And the chicken wire that's behind this will rust, and then you can kind of see it rusting through. So some of this is really maintenance items, but we really wanted, again, the buyer client paid a lot of money for this. We want them to get an idea of what they're looking at and what they're getting themselves into here. You can see these large columns. These are large concrete columns, and they're starting to crack a little bit down at the bottom, where they're probably wicking up a little moisture. You have a couple drip systems around there, as well as just probably rainwater.
Now there was a maintenance crew, for this building. What were you in conversation with all the stucco problems, or?
There was a maintenance professional we met with. It sounded like maybe he was behind the 8 ball a little bit, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think COVID and all the other issues that are going on, I think it just makes it tough. But this was a functioning school. The tenant was a functioning school, the digital media art school, and ton of people in and out throughout the day. We did it on I believe a Tuesday, and that's when they requested us to do it. They said they have less people going in and out that day. So yeah, it was impressive, some of the deterioration and damage on this building. As you go along, you'll be impressed. Some of the stuff's a little bit more minor, but as you get into like these broken windows, so some of these rooms, if you can imagine a digital arts class, they have kind of darkened down and that kind of thing, so they can provide their own lighting and that kind of thing for proper camera angles and such. And you can see how they had this covered, so they might not even know this was broken, to be honest. So I think this inspection was as much for the seller as it was the buyer, or the tenant, if you will.
Yeah.
The tenant actually takes care of a lot of this stuff and is responsible for a lot of this stuff. So you can see just some seals around the windows. These are just more decorative seals that were starting to warp.
Yep.
A lot of windows were starting to, the seals were starting to go bad. You can see a lot of staining and condensation and that kind of thing. I mean, we had a ton of windows showing that. You can kind of see here, I mean, there was just a ton. So definitely some window issues. 20-year-old building, about 20 years old. So kind of expect that. little bit of a trip hazard here. This is outside. I think this is important. Now, this is a good segue to talk about ADA inspections. We didn't do an ADA inspection on this. We do offer the service. Um, we would use a CCPIA provided checklist to do that inspection because there's a lot to that and you want to make sure you do that properly. But we also have a company we could subcontract that to. They're just very, very in-depth, and because of that, they're very expensive. And so usually when I offer them, when I offer that service to the client, it gets denied. But think liability purposes, I think it's important to at least offer that inspection service for ADA in any commercial setting.
Yep.
We do take a look at the grounds and the parking lot and just some stuff like that. You can see just some damaged curbing here, just things that I would want to be aware of if I was buying a building of this price point. For sure. We talk about the asphalt and some of the cracking that you can see here. There was actually some pretty good deterioration and alligatoring in this area. And then what we found out later was that actually this line right here and everything this way of it was actually the client's, and this side is actually owned by Harkin. So
Yeah.
at least we did our due diligence there and try to provide some comments on that. Cracks in the walkway. We also had maybe some overwatering from the drip system here. You can kind of see all the staining here on the concrete. They did have a fountain. They didn't want that inspected. We're very familiar with pools here in Arizona. We do a lot of pool inspections, so we would probably treat that just like a pool if we were to have inspected it. Make some very similar recommendations as far as water treatment and things like that. And then probably some safety stuff. We'd make some comments on that just to CYA as well. You can see this window here. Again, this window went all the way down to the ground. It was tempered glass, but it didn't have, like all the other windows, it didn't have the decorative railing that was out there. So I went ahead and recommended it. It used to be there. And this isn't actually something they're going to step out onto. But if it used to be there and all the other windows had, I felt comfortable saying this one should have it too. So you can kind of see there was actually another fairly large walkout balcony in the front of the building on the second floor, and the railing was actually fairly loose. That's, again, we made that a red item you could see there. So it was also starting to rust in a few areas, definitely needed some maintenance. You can see nothing terrible, but definitely something, just deterioration we should bring to their attention. This was go ahead. Yeah.
What do the colors mean for you and your team?
So blue's going to be more of a maintenance item, something that, on a commercial inspection, their maintenance crew can probably handle. An orange is going to be something more that they might need to even subcontract out, maybe get somebody with a little more knowledge or even a licensed professional, maybe even dig further deeper into. And then red is going to be significant as far as cost and or safety concern. So okay. You can kind of see this is an example of a red item. You can see this is above, this is a balcony, and you can see the water starting to intrude here. And who knows if this is starting to cause some mold growth and things like that. So again, something they're going to have to get a licensed professional to maybe remediate, repair, and hopefully, there's no mold growing behind there that they're going to have to take care of. But that can be a pretty large expense. Here's a better view of where that balcony is, and you can kind of see where the water's coming down through here. Also see some efflorescence and some staining up here on this stucco as well, where the water's penetrating that wall. So definitely some water intrusion going on there. Very, very dry here in Arizona. So if you do see this, I should say in our part of Arizona, I'm actually born and raised in Flagstaff, which is a lot like probably Boulder, Colorado, right? But Phoenix is very, very dry, low desert, but when we do get rain, a lot of times buildings and houses aren't built to withstand it. And so a lot of changes need to be made. So you can see this is the change they tried to make, and they added a little bit of caulking or some type of mastic material here, where normally that would probably be a good place for a flashing, if not two, counter flashing and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so we made some good recommendations in that area. On the interior, the main things we were looking at, again, because the client did not really want cosmetics looked at. This was more going to be stuff that is, moisture caused or fairly significant cost to repair some of this stuff. So we put in some comments. You can see a lot of this moisture stains and actually moisture damage was near the HVAC ducts and registers. So what we ended up finding out later was that they had quite a few HVAC issues that were causing some condensation issues and that kind of thing, and leading to some moisture in those areas, bubbling up on the ceiling. And you can see every single one was fairly close to a supply register. So you can see how it was very important to have that licensed HVAC specialist there inspecting that. So also some staining here too, and again, pretty close to a register here. And then you can see there was even some, just out in the middle of nowhere where, again, there could be plumbing, all kinds of different things that could be causing these. So we didn't remove these tiles, at least not in this case. There was a lot of places we did remove tiles and look at the structure of the building and comment on that. So definitely something they need to get some people looking at all the moisture related stuff. This is kind of their front entry here. There's a person that sits behind this desk and welcomes people in. And they have some live plants here that they pour water into. And there's a small crawl space access behind this. And you can see kind of what that looks like. So definitely getting some water coming down there. We recommended they have somebody take a look at that and further evaluate. So floors, there was just some minor stuff, some tile damage, some cracked tiles, that kind of thing. When we get into structure, there was actually some fairly significant settling cracks that caused some loose tiles and grout cracking and things like that. And we'll talk about that. There were some interior doors that were a little bit out of square, started to create some door closing issues. We commented on this because it was actually more due to the door itself and the actual hardware and the hinges and that kind of thing, as opposed to actually what we would thought maybe would have been structural. So we kept it in the door section as opposed to the structural section. Couple cracked windows. Again, a lot of these would maybe be even hard to see from the inside, but we did find a couple of them and commented on them. Some of these bathtubs were not in use anymore because it's not a spa anymore. It's a school that I don't think they imagine people are taking baths at school. So you can see this tub spout had been discontinued, and we went ahead and called it out just so that it was made aware of.
So you had a lot of moisture indications. Yeah. There's two questions. John and Michael are asking about using infrared. Does your company use infrared?
We do not yet. I actually just hired an inspector that is very comfortable using that. He's been in the mold and remediation business for a long time. He actually holds a B1 commercial residential license, contractor license here in Arizona. And he's going to be a great inspector for us. He's very excited to get into the commercial, especially. So we're going to start providing some ancillary services with him. We're going to start providing mold, infrared, lead-based paint. And he actually has a lot better moisture meters that can do a lot better job than the ones we've been using. So we're very excited about that. Yeah, good questions. We do get the occasional question and inquiry about what was I going to say there? Infrared. We don't get enough of it for us to have really ever, sought it out. Pretty expensive cameras. We use them at the fire department. I'm familiar with how to use them, but I haven't done the InterNACHI training and that kind of thing to actually know how to use it in our industry. Yeah. So I'd like to make myself more familiar. And I do think it's something that we could definitely market and do pretty well with, and especially with commercial. So
cool.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right, great. Again, here's where we had some cracked tiles here, but they were actually starting to loosen, and they were very linear, and you could kind of see where there was multiple in a row. So we thought, maybe some settling cracking going on under that. You can see where this floor is actually starting to lift here, this laminate or vinyl material here. And you can see how the cracking here right in between the tiles here and the grout starting to make these quite loose. So maybe even some heaving going on underneath. So definitely recommend having somebody look at that. This here, pretty minor, just cracks probably between the CMUs, and you can see about every 16 inches, small little cracks there. So wrote that up more as just a maintenance. This is something I really like that Spector offers. I would direct your attention to these sub panels here. Really easy to just duplicate sections. And so as we're inspecting, and I actually have one of my inspectors, thankfully, again, have been blessed to have a great team. He's actually a licensed electrician. And so we bring him out on these, and he does just the electrical systems and is very comfortable with those systems. And one thing Spectora does is make it really easy on adding sub panels. You can see it can get a little bit out of hand with a commercial. The CCPI recommends, a representative number. However, we try to get to everyone. I think that's important, just like we would on a home inspection with outlets, windows, doors. We're going to do everything we can to get to them. Obviously this is an example of one that the clearance wasn't there. We're not going to move somebody's workstation to get to it, but you can see we have a nice clearance picture here. I really want something I want to do this next year is add more of these pictures here just for representation, and kind of think provides a good picture for people. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Main panel, main gear here just had some debris in it. Nothing too crazy, but something we figured we would provide in there for a maintenance recommendation. A ton of junction boxes, missing covers. I mean, again, this is stuff that a maintenance guy could do in one day. Get his ladder ready, get a couple screws and screwdrivers and covers, and go around and start working on getting all those. The other thing you can do, you see the little bubble here. When I hover over, it'll show the location. That's something that I ask all of my inspectors to do, is put a little brief location on every photo, just so that people have an idea of where to go to try to fix those things there. So definitely help out the maintenance guy there. Did we have any other questions there?
Yeah, Eric asks, I'm noticing there's stuff in and out and around the areas of your inspection. To what degree, if any, do you move customers' stuff to get a good inspection of the area?
That's a good question. On a home inspection, I think it's something that obviously then we're going to have more, occupant belongings, where it's people's actually personal belongings. You go into a garage and there's all kinds of boxes and storage and that kind of thing. I mean, if it's something we can move and cause no damage to our backs and also to the owner's belongings, I think that's fair to just scoot out of the way a little bit to grab a picture and at least look the best we can. If it's like a hoarder situation, or it's gonna be extensive, we're not gonna move it. Now, in this case, like the one above, I'm not gonna take the chance of possibly messing up this person's workstation. Maybe they have very important information on here. I don't want to be the one to accidentally unplug it or, cause something like that. So, if it's not going to hurt our back or hurt the client's property, I don't think it's a bad idea to, scoot some stuff around. But I think that's every inspector's choice of how much, they want to take on liability, whether it be not covering that area, not inspecting it, or taking the opportunity to move it and possibly damaging something. So
Yep.
there's liability either way. You have to be comfortable with what you're comfortable with.
Yep. And speaking of liability, John asks, are you liable if one of your contractors, your subcontractors, misses something?
Awesome. Great. So that's something in our agreement that we have that basically says if any service is provided that we subcontract to a licensed contractor, that they're going to come in, it basically says that their report is their report, and that everything in it is to their license and their standard. So they're not writing their report to the CCPI standard anymore. They're writing it to their license standard. So, they kind of accept the liability, not kind of, they do. They accept the liability in that sense. And then we have language in our agreement that then makes sure that we're not the one held liable of that.
Great.
So definitely good to have a lawyer step in and help when creating that agreement, and then understanding how to use it and customize it as well.
Cool. All right, let's keep going. And how long you want to go, Dillon? Like, I didn't even ask.
No, you know what? I mean, I'm good to finish this up. I mean, we got probably another 15, 20 minutes.
That sounds good.
Is that okay with you? Yeah.
Sounds real good.
Cool.
Thanks.
Some loose outlets. I mean, again, this is pretty common stuff. Some light switches that didn't work, didn't turn anything on. These are some extra light covers that were just starting to deteriorate. Again, just some stuff we did get a little bit picky on. But again, we spent a lot of time there and wanted to kind of make sure the client got their money's worth. Outlet covers missing, some GFIs that were damaged or would not trip. You can see that this one's missing the actual reset button there. So, all pretty common stuff that we would, similarly see on a home inspection. This is a condensate drain for an air conditioner. You can see it's coming down. It started to deteriorate the stucco, and actually you can see the aggregate poking up through the sidewalk as well. So maybe adding a little drain there, extending that away from the foundation, just like we would on a home inspection. Plumbing systems here. like to go into my information a little bit just to get a little bit of the water heater and that kind of thing. A couple different, there is only one tenant, but a couple different services for water meters. And they only had one water heater. So again, this was once designed to be a spa. So at one time, this room was full of tankless water heaters and we could see the remnants of them. But at this point, they were just using this big, I think it was a 75 gallon or something along this. It's in here somewhere, but they were using a larger tank here to just heat just the few bathrooms that they had. Expansion tank, that kind of thing. So we have all this informational stuff here to make sure we cover our standards and provide some education, and then go into our defects here. This here is actually, you can see from this picture, this is leaking here, this plumbing above ground here. This is a shut off system. It's actually for the drip system. I called it out under water supply because I wanted somebody to come and take a look at this whole system. There was a lot of corrosion on it and there was water in this whole area. So who am I to say that it was only coming from this? I wanted just to direct the client's attention to this area, not necessarily be a specialist and say, oh, it's definitely this valve or that. So
Yep.
See some faucets leaking, again, pretty picky stuff. There's some gas line corrosion, nothing too crazy, but something that the CCPI does recommend is that we call out if there's ever gas piping that does not have labeling every 5 feet that it is gas. So we did go ahead and put a note in there about that. And again, that's where having that CCPIA to guide us on what our standards truly are is just so important. I think a lot of really good home inspectors out there could do this commercial inspection job. You know, they can really figure it out and do a good job at it. But having a set of standards is the most important thing, in my opinion.
So Michael then asks, how long did it take you to be comfortable doing commercial property inspections? You started off as a home inspector. How long did it take you to tackle a building this big? This is
yeah. So part of that is personally, I have some commercial trade experience. I used to pour concrete. And I used to frame houses and that kind of thing. Not that houses are commercial, but I did some large custom homes framing wise, and then I also did some concrete and some large commercial properties up in the Flagstaff area. And so what I found was that's not much experience. You know, there is a lot to these buildings. And so what I found was there was a lot of training needed, and CCPIA helped with that. And then also, again, I just was blessed with such a good team. I had an inspector who had done a ton of commercial for a different company that he worked for previously. I have that commercial electrician. You know, I have relationships with commercial roofers. I've made a lot of relationships with the different trades. The HVAC guy is actually a personal friend. I made a good contact with the fire suppression guy. I mean, so there's just, you have to make relationships. I think that's what provides that comfortability. As I started reaching out, I did the training and realized what I needed. And then I started making those relationships. And then I went, you know what, kind of like what you said, Ben. It's not that I have to know all this. I have to know somebody who knows how to do it properly and who I trust to do it properly. And that's what brought that in. So as far as a timeline, we started doing this about 6 months ago. So, I mean, I'm still learning. I still have a ton to learn on the commercial, but that's why I'm doing this training. This is also for me. You know, I'm up here doing this because it's making me better as well. And it's going to make my team and my company better by being here on this webinar. So I appreciate the questions because they're only going to make us better, right?
great.
So there was a couple kitchen appliances and things like that, little break rooms and such. So we did do we have the ability to do that. We also do have a commercial kitchen template we can use, and we have somebody, again, another relationship with somebody we can have come out and do hood system testing and Ansel systems testing and stuff like that. So let's see here. No anti-tip. I mean, you can kind of see this is pretty basic stuff as far as the interior went. Your elevator, we have some limitations, just basically saying, and this is again CCPIA. The standard is that we would get in the elevator and operate it with normal functions, normal buttons, right, and make sure that it works right. No loud noises, that kind of thing. And then also, this is something that I definitely always offer to be subbed out in the initial proposal, because I want to make sure if they want this tested and inspected, we can have that done. Another thing is to just communicate with the seller and the building owner or maintenance personnel, because they might already have a lot of this information. Oh yeah, we just had the elevator tested, a month ago. Here's the report. and that's something you can kind of direct towards the client, and it always helps. So you're doing a lot of coordinating in an inspection like this, which I do like. I actually enjoy doing that. So it's become something that has been a great service for us. Like I said, we started the whole second company, Arizona Commercial Property Inspections. We also this year have started InterNACHI Partner School. We're just kind of getting that going, and with the help of Ben's team and InterNACHI, we're going to provide InterNACHI curriculum to students here locally. So if anybody's knows anybody in Arizona or is in Arizona and you're interested in becoming a home inspector, we're going to teach from a local perspective, from local experienced inspectors, the InterNACHI curriculum. I can't think of anything better for our Arizona inspectors. We're also going to open up an InterNACHI chapter here, which they used to have one a while back, and I think it's no longer with us. So we're going to start one, get that going here. We want to bring people together. We want to point people towards education. We want to keep the standards high for home inspectors. You hear things out there in the industry from realtors and from people that aren't educated that, home inspectors do this or do that. I don't like that. I want our standards to be high. I want, other inspectors to be successful. We found that the success rate of home inspectors who just go through a random school and go try to do their 30 parallels in here in Arizona, the success rates aren't that good, aren't that high. We want to raise that bar, help people get through school and actually know how to either run a good company or, work for another company and actually be a good, successful inspector for that company. So
I can't wait. That's going to be great. It's going to be great to have you as a training partner. You took advantage of the training program that InterNACHI provides to any school, existing school, or if you're thinking about opening up a school, we'll help you in any way possible. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I mean, if anybody has any other questions, I'm here. You guys can find my information on our website, Facebook. I try to do a lot on Facebook. It's free advertising, right? So you guys just let me know if you have anything else. I really appreciate you having me. And again, just wanted to thank my team because they've done just such a good job. If they're watching or going to watch this, they're the ones that deserve all the props here. So
that's really great. Dillon Winiecki from Protect Property Inspections. I really appreciate taking some time out today to talking with us and so that we can be better. And sounds like you are a blessed man with a successful home inspection business and a commercial property inspection business and a sewer scope business and now a school. Man, you are busy.
We're trying. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the resources you guys provide, Ben.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody, and stay safe and healthy. See you, Dillon. Bye.